Hey guys, I'm Layne Norton, and who the hell are you? What have you done with Holly? She doesn't wear normal clothes. She's in sports gear. Where's your sports bra?
This is like a high.
Got it. Go bring me Holly right now.
Okay, guys. So let's actually get down to business. Radio week.
Fifth update. And we're finished with 4 weeks.
Yes. So last week we had a little bit of progress, and we kind of went through what we were doing with my diet breaks and my lower calorie days and my higher calorie days, and it was a bit of a wash because we were trying to do or accommodate some friends coming to town. So I had half of my high days in 1 week and half of my high days in the next week. So this is another week where I have a combination of macro targets. So
the first half of the week was your diet break. Second half of the week back on the diet. Exactly. Although that didn't exactly go according to plan.
No. So for the first 4 days, I did my high days, and I ended up having an extra high day. Not because I was just going crazy or anything like that. I think I just did a poor job at actually choosing food selections on that Sunday. So we went out for every single meal, I believe. Oh no, except for dinner, which I made a barbecue. Mm-hmm. Everything just went over. And I ended up saying to myself, well, I've got this beautiful dinner that I've made. I'm gonna eat it with everybody else, and then I'll just make up for it and do some more difficult days to catch up. And that was the worst idea.
You weren't happy about it the next day.
No, I was really unhappy.
You were actually almost as high as when you started your diet the next day.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to be a little bit critical of you over the past week because you had been stalled, and then you hit your diet break and you actually started dropping really well.
Yeah.
And you actually the morning on Saturday morning, you were like under 67. Mm-hmm. Now that was at a gym scale, different scale. You had your clothes on, but you should have been under 67.
Yeah, well, last Tuesday I started at 67.8, and then by Thursday, Friday I was 67.5, and then on Saturday morning at the gym, as you say, the scale said 67, and I'd just taken 4 high days. So I was at my lowest after that, which was awesome. And then I went and stuffed it up on Sunday. So
actually, that was after 6 high days.
That was like 6 high days.
So I think one of the other things is you have trouble with saying no when you're in social situations. And you have trouble feeling like you would enjoy that in social situations. I know a lot of people get like this during prep, and that's why people become hermits. And I think part of that is one, better planning. So, in those situations, usually, I try to, at least what's worked for me, is I try to go very low calorie early in the day, so that I have something later in the day. Now, obviously, we went out to lunch after we got done riding a bike, but that could have been a situation where you made a decision just to get a piece of grilled meat or grilled fish and then have that be it, right?
Yeah, well, it actually was.
But you had a wine too.
I had a wine. Alcohol is the devil.
Well, I think what really hurt you was the night before at 1 a.m. you decided to get pizza. So you had a few alcoholic beverages.
Yeah, I was definitely making poor decisions.
So while alcohol won't really negatively impact fat loss if you account for the calories and you're not getting crazy drunk, it does. I mean, they've shown this in the brain. It lowers your inhibition reflex, so you are more likely to do things that you wouldn't normally do when you've had more alcohol. So I think that one of the things we've learned is you've got when you're in a social situation, you've got a pretty low threshold for being able to really adhere, right? Because you find joy in participating in those social situations. So we either have to not put you in a social situation which you wouldn't enjoy, or do a better job of moderating that alcohol intake.
Yeah, it's not the social situation, it's just alcohol. I really need to cap myself at like 2 if I want to have any inhibition and say no to things, especially when it comes to like pizza at 1 a.m. and you're starving.
And I think the other thing I've noticed too is you're a snacker. You really pick at things throughout the day.
Yeah.
I have to be. I don't want to be like, because I don't want to be like an overbearing.
No, you should have slapped that out of my mouth.
How to Stop Overeating 2.0. But and that's a really difficult challenge a lot of people have during prep. And like I remember during my last prep in 2010, I got to the end. I remember the first thing I did that made me feel like normal again was there was like a half-eaten protein bar. It was like a piece of protein bar. And I just took it, and I ate it, and I didn't track it. I was just like, oh, that's so good. But during prep, I was weighing everything right down to my cooking spray because, people they'll say things like, I actually was in a little bit of a debate with Don Long, who is a former IFBB pro, yesterday on Instagram, very respectful. But he said, I don't track the protein in oatmeal, and I don't track the carbs in broccoli and this sort of thing.
Oh, really?
He's like, I don't really feel like that makes that big of a difference. But that stuff adds up, like you just said, right? Like 20 calories here, 30 calories here. That's like if you were going to do an ultra, like a cross-country race in a car. That's like saying, I'm just going to rely on my fuel gauge, on my dial fuel gauge to tell me when my tank is going to be empty, versus knowing what your car gets exactly per gallon and knowing exactly how many gallons you have in there. So you can go as long as you possibly can and be as efficient as possible, right?
Yeah.
With your race, so to speak. Same thing with food. Why would you not want to give yourself every possible advantage you can by being because there's enough error in food labels anyways and weighing that you want to be as precise as you possibly can.
Yeah, well, just to make a point on that, yesterday I wanted to actually just go ahead and see what all my snacking kind of tabulated to as far as calories is concerned, and I'll give you like all the things that I ate yesterday just snacking. That's just because I was in the kitchen, I was getting the kids ready for food. Like I had like a cut of sliced cheese, I had a couple of little crackers, I probably ate a small biscuit. I had a couple of different cheesecakes that I needed to like move them out of one container into another to make it fit in the fridge, and I sliced an edge off some of the cakes and would like just toss them in. And when I went back through and added all that up, it would have easily been like 350 calories just of like slicing.
They probably didn't even satiate you that much because you weren't enjoying them. No. There's actually research on this that shows that when you sit down and you think about what you're actually eating, that it's more satiating. Whereas if you're just doing it when you're busy, it's way worse.
Yeah, so that effectively meant yesterday for me, just because I was snacking on all those little things and taking a mouthful here, this or that. I ended up having to have like a really crap meal. I had to have like yogurt for dinner because I had really crap macros left. It was like, 18 grams of protein left, 12 grams of carbohydrates and 5 grams of fat. Like that isn't a meal. So I had to have a crap dinner, and I was so annoyed at myself because I was like, what was the point of me even like taking those slices off the cakes or, making myself some cheese and biscuits because I've just given the kids some. Like, So yeah, I think I still have another week on my diet macros, and I kind of went to business last night at like 11 o'clock. I made like 20 meals just so that I don't have that temptation to go and stand in the fridge and go, what am I going to eat? Like it's there, that's what I have, it's done, that's it, take it out, go. So yeah, I think I had this conversation literally with clients on Monday. There's one of my girls is struggling with peanut butter. And she was like, look, I've got my husband on board now. He's going to be like portioning it out for me. We've got it in little containers. And I just said, is it really worth it? It's time to just get rid of it. You're going for your pro card. Let's not even risk or a chance at being in the house. It's done. So I think sometimes in these situations, if it is that difficult for you to be adherent, get rid of the problem just for a contest prep.
I think, we're fans of flexible dieting, but too much flexibility is a bad thing.
Definitely.
Especially when you're trying to do this. Like, you want structured flexibility is what Dr. Corey Probst talks about.
Yeah.
And so for you, that may mean, hey, you know what, I like my low-carb lasagna today. Or I'd like a bolognese, or I like whatever it is. But you portion that out. It's structured, you're ready for it.
Yeah,
right?
I actually, during the last few weeks of my contest prep, although it doesn't really sound like it's flexible dieting, I actually write out my meal plans. So it is flexible in that I have the choice of the foods that I'm eating, but it's on a plan and it's portioned out. Just for a couple of weeks when I know it's getting difficult And to avoid situations that I was in yesterday where I get to the end of the day and I've just got crap macros left and it's really not a satiating meal. So I'm a big fan of people actually planning ahead on their difficult diet weeks.
And so I think, the other thing is, so that made it difficult in the day yesterday. And then your Saturday night, that we talked about the pizza, you actually rolled that into Sunday, which is why you really couldn't afford the wine at lunch.
No.
And
that pizza had like 30 grams of fat.
And plus the other thing is you're eating out. You are accounting for it, but who knows if those macros are accurate, right?
Yeah, and I think with the amount of weight gain that I had the preceding days, I think I still underestimated. And that's the problem when you're eating restaurant food. You don't know what brands they're using. They sure as hell aren't using the low calorie versions. So it's tough. And same with alcohol. We were chatting about it yesterday. Though I tracked everything that I had, people aren't pouring their ounce shot exactly. Yeah. Like I remember looking at one of the drinks that were poured to me and I'm like, holy moly, that's like 2 ounces for a single shot. Yeah. So, lucky I know that and I can recognize it and put it in as a higher amount. But it's such a calorie dense beverage. If you're out just by a little bit, it's going to give you a heck of a lot more calories than you're accounting for. So.
Yeah. And I think the 3 days after that, because you also went over on Sunday, the next 2 days were pretty awful for you. Mm. You had to eat, 60, 70 grams of carbs to make it even out?
Yeah.
So I think that,
I felt like zombie too on that day. It's just the worst thing to do, rolling calories forwards when you're that far over. Yeah. So just don't put yourself in that position.
So what we learned from this is, 1, we need to limit how much you're eating out, right? 2, having some structured flexibility, and 3, being careful about alcohol. Mm-hmm. So the good news is that you still managed to drop some weight, but we're still behind.
Yay!
So
on average, I lost, my average weigh-in for this week was 67.7. That's great because I had some really light days earlier in the week. And then, later into the week, I was back to around 68. So 67.7 was the average. And that's 400 grams down on last week's average. And I think with this week ahead, we'll talk about the macros we're going to set for my targets for my second dieting week. I do expect we'll get to probably 66 again in that frame by the end of the week.
And we're behind, but we're actually catching up a little bit because you lost weight in your diet break, which we didn't account for. Right. We thought you just maintained. So let's go look at the data and see what we're going to do this week.
All right, so let's start at my weight for the week. So if we look to August 8th, which was last Wednesday, I was sitting at 67.5. Then I was 67.8. I had a very low day here coming into Friday, and same with Saturday. So these are all high days where my macros are up around that 210 mark, and my calories, let's probably refer to calories, is around 1950. So my weight continued to trend down despite those high days. I was then meant to start my low days on Sunday, which ended up being a high day, and then I had to go pretty aggressive on Monday and Tuesday to come back into calorie balance. But overall, if we come over to have a look at the compliance side of things, on my low days, I ended up balancing out and coming in just over at 2% higher than meant to be, and I was a little bit over my protein. If we have a look at my high days, my compliance was perfect, so 100% to calories, but I was obviously a little bit protein hungry and doing more protein predominant foods. So I was 108% for my protein compliance, so that just meant that I was having slightly less carbs and fats. So that basically sums up my previous week. Having a look at this week, so this week started yesterday. I've kind of preemptively gone ahead and put in what I think will be my targets for this week. Layne, what do you think of those numbers? So I've got 135 and 47 for my second diet week.
Yeah, we had already kind of started those the first half of the last week.
That's right.
Because we decided you needed to drop. And I think, you dropped during the diet break, so I think it makes sense to stay at those numbers.
Yeah.
You were up a little bit this morning, but you just started your lady time.
Yeah,
so
let's plug that in, monthlies.
And we talk about this in the contest prep book. if you don't come up that much or stay the same during your premenstrual cycle, then it's most probable that you're actually going to drop. And so not to drop your macros, not to make an adjustment. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to stay steady.
The good thing is my weight has been trending down,
Yeah.
even though I'm getting my period. So I was up as high as 69.5 on Monday morning, which was like, I nearly had a heart attack because I was 67 on Saturday.
Yeah,
so,
her mood went from...
Yeah, I was like
Yeah,
happy, fluttering around the house, so I was like... The big t-shirt came out for like 2 days. I was like back to wearing baseball shorts and...
Yeah. The funny thing was you didn't look that bloated. You didn't look that bloated.
No, I think it was just a lot of fluid and probably a little bit of body fat gain, but hey, it was a good week.
So I think this points to, if we can get you to be consistent and adherent, I think we could have you into by next diet break, maybe even under 66. So
under 66.
Yeah.
Oh,
Imagine
you're
that.
asking a lot from me.
Well, the more work you do now, the less work you have to do at the end. And it's never a bad thing to be ready early. So
Yeah.
I would much rather that than, and you want to talk about taking the stress off going into a peak week,
Yeah.
much
being
better
ready.
when you know you're ready.
I think something else that I just wanted to, I'm just thinking of this now. So the weeks that I had the diet breaks, obviously your calories are a little bit higher. Make sure that your programming ties with this, because I found that my energy levels were so much better. Thankfully, my program, that was my hardest, most difficult week, and I just smashed it. And I think part of the reason that I lost so much weight that week was because I had, this newfound energy, a little bit less stress, I suppose, and my sessions were awesome. And yesterday and Monday's training,
She's awful.
we went and did a podcast down at MI40 here in Tampa, and they have the most beautiful gym. It was like some of the nice Australian gyms that I was used to. So I was like, oh my God, like I've got all this stuff that I can play with, but my energy was just so low. So I think planning your high days or your diet breaks with your harder training sessions to really capture that and go hard is super important, because this week my training is hard. Even though there's nothing unusual about the sessions, it's just so much more mentally fatiguing. So that's something else that I think is really important to consider too. Yeah.
Well, fortunately, the workout builder took that into account, and you had the right plan for the job.
Yes.
But we're not in too bad of a spot right now. We just really need to tighten things up and have a consistent week. And we're going to see some good results, and look forward to checking in with you guys next week with some good news.
So to summarize, 165 protein this week, 135 for my carbs, and 47 for my fats. That is 7 days, so this is my second diet week. So shit's about to get real.
Too real. We'll catch you.
Yeah, wish me luck, guys, and we will catch you next week on our reverse diet? No, I wish it was. The Fat Loss Diet series.